Welcome to the special meeting of council, Tuesday, April 11th, 2023 at 4:40 in council chambers and via Zoom. We acknowledge that the town of Kirkland Lake is located on the traditional territory of Algonquin peoples, including Beaver House First Nation and the unceded territory of other Indigenous people. We recognize the presence of the Algonquin, Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Cree, and Métis people in our community since time immemorial and honor their stewardship and care of these lands. We hereby affirm our continued commitment and responsibility to reconciliation. Call to order and a moment of silence. Item number 2, approval of the agenda.
Moved by Councillor Lalage-Chavez, seconded by Councillor Casey Owens, be it resolved that the agenda for the special meeting of council held on Tuesday, April 11th, 2023 be approved as circulated, and finally that section 32 and 45 of the town of Kirkland Lake's procedural bylaw number 15075 as amended is suspended to permit debate and motions from the floor in relation to item 6.1 2023 budget deliberations.
All in favor? Opposed? None noted. Item carried. Item number 3, declaration of pecuniary interest. None noted at this time. Item number 4, petitions and delegations. None at this time. Item number 5, acceptance of minutes and recommendations. Also none at this time. At this time, I'll actually ask Councillor Ranger to come up as finance chair.
And so, good evening to 2023 budget deliberations, day 1, Blake Crocker, treasurer. There will be a slight change. Number 1, questions from public meeting, residents and council.
Okay, so for you, Madam Chair. So we've received several questions over the last couple of meetings. I prepared some verbal answers tonight, and I guess made a mistake, and I believe I actually have to distribute these to the people who asked the questions. So I'll do that in the next couple of days. Looking at you. Yeah. So anyways, I've got a list of questions here. I'm going to answer them. I don't know that going deeper than that. So the first question was from a ratepayer, and they were asking about the contracted services and a breakdown of what they were roughly by departments. So bear with me. The cemetery, it's columbarium inscriptions. The library, it was custodial and snow removal. The museum was workshop leadership, some linen dishwasher, pest control. Parks and recreation, security, safety, elevator maintenance and inspections, pool inspections, community safety and well-being plan, and the internet speaker series. Admin, so we have some admin software in there. We have our own elevator maintenance and inspections, EFAP benefits software, and the strategic plan. HR, there was a significant drop, and the question was asked why. So last year there were some issues that had to, we had to engage some consultants to help us with. This year we don't expect to have the same costs. IT, software licenses, security software licenses, and specialist consultants. Treasury, that's the accounting and budget software primarily, and we have you'd be shocked at what we pay for mailing. Airport, that's the fuel system maintenance. Under building, so we have contracted building permit services. This was discussed at council earlier. We've we've added to that budget to take into account that we don't have the building staff, the building license person available right now. So we're gonna have to contract that out for a period of time. And there's some building demolition costs in there as well. Economic development, there's a marketing contract. There's some council directives, specific items. The new development corporation, which will be coming online later in the year. And the strategic plan, which is more, this one is focused around tourism and economic development. Under planning, it's similar to building. We've had increase in contracted services, mostly around the staffing. As we try and restaff, we have to use outside services more until we get there. Recruitment services and software licenses. The fire department, that's the communications contract. That's the 911 and the special software that they use. And equipment maintenance and inspections. I think I've covered everything off. If I missed something, please let me know. Hopefully it's. There are some questions. There's 6 of them that I kind of pulled out of all of the discussions we had. So bear with me for a minute. So question 1 was explain the 17 million deficit in the 2022 actuals. So that's basically an error in the presentation of it. It isn't a $17 million deficit. We still haven't heard this part before. Still haven't finished the audit. We still haven't got the TPR and the cemetery numbers up to date. So the deficit is a little bit over. It's the budgeted amount for 2022 is a little bit over $10 million. Details of transfers in prior years, actuals in the library budget. So in the past, and this happens pretty much every year, when they have significant donations, they're often transferred into reserves or from reserves, depending on what's going on. The into reserves are obviously, we're living that right now. We have a very large building project starting up, and any donations we receive related to that goes into the reserve. But they also pull from the reserve when they're making book purchases and stuff like that, because there's some donations which are specifically identified as being for books and materials. Okay. General description of the increase in overall mayor council budget. So the mayor council increases are related to primarily through the conference and seminars. We're all going to be attending, now that we're not in lockdown the whole lives. There's going to be more of that happening, so it's more consistent with the past. There's some council chamber upgrades, purchase of iPads, which was discussed in the last meeting. And I think that basically covers most of that. When was the last time an assessment on whether we need full-size pickups was done? Have we considered the purchase of hybrid vehicles? The short answer is there hasn't been one, but it's certainly on our agenda now. So we'll be kind of visiting that, I think, and somewhat later in this budget discussion too. So provide a breakdown of the components of debt related to the water and wastewater budgets, and that's almost entirely equipment loans. And that's the current portion. That's what we're actually cutting checks for during the current year for the capital and the interest on those loans. Details of the increase in contracted services in the water budget. So the Aqua contract in the past has been one lump sum amount. It's been broken out now. We pay for our chemical costs directly. And I think they must have been prescient or something because our chemical costs have skyrocketed. So the biggest part of that increase. So it was all part of, we had the contracted services with the Aqua work, and then they billed us for the chemicals that were purchased as part of the water treatment. So they've broken that out now. The contract actually has separate where we pay directly to purchase the chemicals ourselves. And that cost has just skyrocketed over the last year. So that's the primary reason for that increase in the water budget. There was one other question. I wasn't sure if it was a question or a comment. There was some concern around in the capital budget about the Aqua items that were moved down below, and whether there's some idea of what the risks were that were associated with moving those budgets, those numbers down below instead of leaving them up in the current year expenditures. So I'm just going to give a very quick summary. I think Oh, he made it. I had to go out and look at a water problems we were having. I wasn't sure he was gonna be here, but, you know, you gotta keep in mind, Aqua provides us with a list that they think needs the work that think needs to be done in the immediate future. Then they meet with, in this case, it was Brian and Stefan, and they kind of add another layer of assessment about when it should happen, whether it's this year or maybe next year. You know, most of these items probably will show up next year. That's the facts of it. But right now, they weren't considered a high risk to create any problems for us in the near future. That's just a, you know, 30,000 foot overview of the process they go through. If you'd like more details about how that's arrived at, I'm not sure. We could probably arrange something a little bit more complete. You know, I have a list of items that were excluded as well, if we wanted to go there. Okay.
Sorry, Councillor Owen.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. I just have some questions about the change in the Aqua contract. Was council notified of that change?
Yeah, it was actually 2 years ago. I think that the split happened, partial 2 years ago. Yes, you guys, I'm pretty sure you approved the contract.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I'm not sure how it was broken out. I don't believe I was there when it happened, but
I probably wasn't, just don't remember because.
yeah, well, I think, you know, at that point in time, we weren't expecting any significant change in the dollars. It was just in how it was paid for.
Okay, because one of the selling points that Aqua was always used with us was the bulk buying chemicals and how we got them cheaper. So are we now paying a bulk price or are we paying like as if we were the only purchaser?
Yeah, I'm not gonna answer that for sure. I don't imagine we would have agreed to it if we couldn't have accessed the best rate we could. But I can come back to you with a proper answer.
Yeah, it's not a big issue.
Yeah.
I just don't remember.
Stefan.
Chemical costs, from my understanding, is that they were separated from the contract so that when they do bill out for their chemical costs, that it reflects the changes in prices with market. So that is one of the reasons why they want it excluded, but we're not purchasing the chemicals directly. It's still done through Aqua.
It's
with
still
their
the bulk.
benefits, but it's being billed separately to reflect changes in market prices.
Okay, great. Thank you, Stephen.
Councillor Kylie. Oh, you did? Any other questions? Anything else, Liz?
No, those are the questions that I identified. If I've missed something, please let me know.
Thank you. Now, so there will be a change number 2 to order of deliberation. We'll start with capital. And then we'll move on to operating, followed by water wastewater.
So again, I just want to frame it a little bit about the process we go through. We are now pretty much done the equipment side of the asset management plan, like I told you last week. We're finishing the financing, so we kind of have a better idea of what they're thinking right now. It's not official, so it'll probably be coming to you in, I'm guessing, July, by the time we go through 2 or 3 reviews and everything else that happens. But I just wanted to kind of, again, frame it, and apologize if I'm being repetitive, is that, you know, a lot of the stuff that's on this list comes out of the plan or the 10-year plan that was put together by the directors that you guys saw recently. So, you know, it's kind of built into the idea that if we're trying to maintain the infrastructure and equipment that we have going forward. So I have a list of resolutions here that were submitted, and if you don't mind, we could maybe go through those. If you have further resolutions, you know, I'll do my best to kind of keep up with you. And, you know, I do want to make one other comment too. Some of these resolutions address assets that are being paid for reserves. So I'm pretty sure you guys understand this. So I don't mean to be in any way, you know, offside about this, but in this scenario, there is no tax savings, there is no tax levy savings when we remove items that are coming out of reserves. Just to be kind of clear as we go through the whole list here, okay? Thank you. So the first one that I
just
have
wanna-
here.
Sorry, Lloyd, I just want to see, are there any other resolutions that need to be brought forward at this time?
Is this, sorry, to you, Madam Finance Chair, to the clerk, is this where my resolutions would come forward?
Madam Chair, to Councillor Dykens, if you only have your 3 resolutions, I printed them off and I gave them to the chair already. So we
Okay.
tried to organize them in the way that they would be presented this evening. So if you have any additional ones,
No, that's fine, it just, I didn't want us to put something over. Okay, thank you.
No others? Thank you. Okay,
she'll start with them.
we'll start with, so Councillor Patrick Kiley, yeah, moved by Pat Kiley, seconded by Lod Shaba.
Would you like me to read them?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so this is with reference to item number 2 on page 1 of capital budget, which is the compactor gravel. Moved by Patrick Kiley, seconded by Lord Tava, that the item be removed, lease or rent. And this is lease or rent unit. So the total cost of that unit was 45,792 budget.
That is the actual cost of rental. Or
Expenditure $45,792.
Are you asking if it's being leased or rented, or that's your?
yeah, that was one of the questions that
I would say purchase. It's a purchasing.
that have you leased or rented in the past?
I believe we had our own in the past. I'm not sure we ever.
Director of Public Works?
You, Madam Chair. Compactors is definitely a unit usually that we like to retain in-house. Yes, we can rent them, which would be our option B if council is not in agreement with purchasing. That's what we would be doing, would be to rent these units for 2023, and I would return next year with the same request. There's 2 compactors that are part of the site, one of which is a diesel plate packer, a very heavy one. And the other one is called the jumping jack, which is designed to compact the gravel around the pipes in the infrastructure, which is something that our department is currently lacking, is compaction equipment. What we have is old, and we're missing key pieces of compaction equipment.
Yeah, I guess the question was it cheaper to rent or lease as opposed to buying outright?
I didn't take a look at the leasing option. I'm not sure if those are the good options for those kind of machines. They take a beating.
Yeah, they would take a beating.
But the rental cost, I would have to put the cost together to see how it would cost for a whole year versus when we need them. But it's something that both the Waterworks division as well as the road division utilizes on a very regular basis. Every time we open a hole, these pieces of equipment should be the first things on site.
Councillor Owens?
Through you, Madam Chair, kind of answer my question. So that means if we have a pipe break in the middle of winter and one of these compactors is not available, someone's not getting their water back?
Well, we would do our very best to do native packing, in that sense that we would utilize just the bucket.
Yeah.
But it's not something we want to do. It's something that I would recommend coming back in the spring and digging up again, just so that
So
we can.
more cost.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Proper compaction helps with the deterioration of your asphalt surface. If it moves below the asphalt surface because of poor compaction, that's where you'll see cracks, that's where you'll see movement. And I see a lot of that in town.
Councillor Owens?
And through you, Chair, to step in. We do not compact property, and I'm thinking more around water pipes and things. Or where we replace a section of the main line. If that's not compacted properly. The result is we end up with a sinkhole, right? And we could end up with a sinkhole, and then we have to go back with the crew and redo all the work again. And then resurface it again
Absolutely correct.
Yes.
Yes.
and get.
Councilor Shabba?
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Chair. Usually I will maybe suggest that in future that we have options. You indicated that you didn't look into rental or lease or cost. So I mean, we don't have anything to compare it to. But my question to you is that, do you know if these compactors can be rented locally? Do you know?
Through Madam Mayor, I know that the diesel pay packer is definitely rentable locally. I can't speak to the jumping jack. I'm not sure if that's a piece of equipment that's favored in Kirkland. It's something I've seen in construction before. It's a very good piece of equipment, low cost. But I would have to verify. I'm assuming that it can be rented. I just can't guarantee that it's local.
So just for clarification, having this piece of equipment at 45 and change actually would end up saving us in the long run, because if things aren't done properly, that's man hours, that's equipment rental, that's all the others, and it plays into the asset management and hopefully proactive maintenance of our roads
Correct.
long-term.
Yes.
So this is definitely a long-term item with long-term vision of what we want to accomplish with our community.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
So we call for the vote for the removal of item 2.
So on call a vote. For item number 2, removal of compactor gravel removal. All in favor? Those opposed? Motion carried.
No,
Oh, sorry, Block. I'm gonna win.
defeated Ashley.
Next one. Next one. Resolution number 7, page 1, capital budget, moved by Lad Java, seconded by Patrick Kiley. Automated pedestrian crosswalk to $23,914 to be removed. Item number 7. What?
Yeah, thank you very much. I know this is a small amount, but what we're looking at is we're trying to look at the overall picture, thereby reducing the municipal tax levy. And we're really thinking about something that could be deferred to the next budget. You know, everyone, this could come back next year anyways. So that's the reason behind this. I know it's a small amount, but if there's no urgency and something that deferred to next year, I will hope that that will be removed for now.
Councilor Kiley?
No, I agree with Councilor Shabba.
Councilor Owens?
The goal through you, Madam Chair, the goal of the automated pedestrian crosswalk is to eventually replace crossing guards, which we're having a hard time filling. I remember correctly, right?
Yes, to remove the crossing guards and to increase safety.
Safety, yes. So it's a safety, and we've got other locations in town that are earmarked. So if we push this one back a year, then everything else gets pushed back a year as well, right?
Yes, it was our department's goal to at least request for one every year.
Okay, so for a safety standpoint, I've seen what goes through on 2nd Street and cars winging by people when they cross. I think $23,000 is a cheap ask for kids' safety. Like, this is kids going to school in the morning, and Tweedsmuir there's a lot of people going by on that street as well, so I think it's a cheap ask.
Councilor Owens?
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. Also, I think the payback is pretty fast on this, because one, we're not paying for a crossing guard at that location. 2, we're not spending management time scratching their head, trying to find somebody to go and fill in. And 3, we're not taking someone that we're paying a very livable hourly wage and putting them at a minimum wage position because we have no one to fill that position. And as a person who got hit by a car when I was 5 years old, I certainly put an emphasis on the safety aspect of the signs as well. I believe it should stay.
Councilor Kylie.
Yeah, I just refer back to Stefan's mentioning that we do one a year. We are doing one already. Correct?
We are requesting one through capital every year. We're asking to have one as a capital.
So this is the second one.
This is the first we're asking for this year. We've requested, last year we had one as well. It was the one on Queen Street and Woods.
Okay,
That was the one for last year, which was a larger installation.
thank you.
Councilor Beckett.
Madam Finance Chair, this is Stefan. Have there been any issues with the one that is at Queen and Woods?
We do, sorry, through you, Madam Chair, we do find that there are problems with that installation. And there's been several suggestions that aim towards the same suggestion. A lot of people think that we should have a four-way stop on that intersection because of the blind corner. The installation is designed to try to capture more attention at a longer distance and does cover the corner. But we do find it bizarre that even with all the flashing lights, people do still go through as though they've never seen them. It's something that we hope time will fix. And we are still actively trying to find other solutions. We have to still upgrade we have to reinstate a sidewalk on the school corner to try to increase safety. But that would be a solution for the safety aspect on that intersection would be to entertain a four-way stop. And that would definitely slow down the traffic. Because another issue that we're having with that intersection is turning from Woods, going left on, that would be on Queen. I've done that corner myself, you can't see it. There's no, you have to creep into the intersection and risk getting hit to make the corner.
And just to follow up,
Okay, I just want to make it clear that the corner or Queen and Wood is not part of this budget questioning line, so
right.
if that's what your question is direct. No, okay.
So Madam Chair, that's my concern for Tweedsmuir because there's two curves there and I live right there. That's and the cars whip around. I see how effective having a person there is. I'm not sure how the lights are, but that's just a comment for that.
No other questions or comments? Okay, motion to have the automated pedestrian crosswalk removed from the budget, which is item number 7, Federal Public School. All in favor? Those opposed? Defeated. Resolution item number 8, capital budget, page 1, moved by Patrick Kiley, seconded by Lad Shaba, remove one pickup truck from Public Works.
For you, Madam Chair, to all of council, we've received very similar requests from two different members of council. So the second resolution reads, so we can do an amendment, we can deal with the main pick, because there's both resolutions have one pickup to be removed, but another resolution also has and replace with purchase one pickup and one small all-wheel or one four-wheel drive SUV expenditure. So I don't know if
I would amend mine, sorry,
so.
to your worship. I would amend mine to the secondary.
Okay, so we'll forego this one and we'll go with that one. Okay. Go ahead.
Resolution number 8, capital budget, page 1, moved by Councillor Rick Owen, seconded by Mayor Stacy Wright. The 2023 capital budget, 2 pickups, remove line to purchase 2 pickups for $122,112 and replace with purchase 1 pickup and 1 small all-wheel or 4-wheel drive SUV expenditure of $110,000. Counselor Owen.
Just as to you, Madam Chair. I didn't pick that 110,000 out of the air. I did some Googling. Stefan, if you do not think that that is the correct price, I'd like to hear from you what. Because I don't buy vehicles every day, and I know that car companies put prices out that you can never buy the vehicle for.
Yeah.
So if you're not in agreement with that, I would be open to hearing from you what you would think.
Under the assumption that one would be 60 and the smaller unit 50, I don't think that's unreasonable.
Oh, okay.
I don't think
Because I just sort of randomly picked middle priced on both a truck and an SUV, and I picked what was available locally, so. Okay, this was something that was supposed to happen a while ago, with the transfer of the building department's 4-wheel pickup truck to, I don't know whether it was roads or water, but to the works department. And the SUV, I'm not sure how our treasurer's gonna deal with this on the books, but
Yeah,
we're just kind of doing something that should have happened a few years, or the suggestion is we do something that should have happened a few years ago. Thank you.
Mayor White.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. Just to reiterate what Councillor Owen stated, this was something that had been discussed in a previous council, and had not occurred. And what we're trying to get at, I know yourself through your department is doing a fleet management program for us. And so this is our question. If you're not hauling items, do we really require a pickup truck?
for the development purposes.
Yeah,
Right.
like depending on the position. So we're kind of trying to think long-term here of what's appropriate for what position. So that's the only reason. It's not going to save huge amount of money, obviously. But it was just something to right a wrong from before.
Any more questions? Statements? Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna call for a vote on item number 8. And then read the whole thing. Yep. Okay. The 2023 capital budget, 2 pickups, remove line to purchase 2 pickups for $122,112 and replace with purchase 1 pickup, 1 small all-wheel or 4-wheel drive SUV expenditure, $110,000. Those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries. Resolution item number 10, page 2, capital budget, moved by Councillor Rick Owen, seconded by Councillor Pat Kiley. Backup generator, fire hall, $38,101, removed from line. I'd like to call up Director of Services, Don. Sure. What? Oh, it is, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I can do that. I can do it.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Right. You're there.
Feel free to go.
Councillor Owen.
Through you, Madam Chair. This was a suggestion that came from our CAO, who is also our acting fire chief. All I will say is, and then I'll ask him to speak to the issue, is that because the amount is 38,000, should we have a catastrophic failure with this generator, we would have money in reserves that we will be able to replace it on a relatively fast basis. So normally I would not say take something out that's a safety issue to replace, but I'm comfortable doing this, and I will let CAO Smith CAO slash Fire Chief Smith speak on the issue because it was the idea came out of the conversation that we had, and it was his ideas.
Through you, Madam Chair. After checking with fire staff, mainly the platoon chief in charge of equipment. And he mentioned that this year we could do without getting it, but for 2024, it would be a must have. So is the January in great shape right now? It's not, but it's performing adequately. So now if something, as the council mentioned, catastrophic happened, yes, of course, we'd come back and say, yes, we need this, a safety issue, but as it stands right now, this is something that we can move to 2024.
Any questions?
Just a comment for you, Madam Chair. My concern would be, we're just kicking this down the road until next year. And we know that we need it. And we know that we may spend the money on it if there's catastrophic failure within the next 365 days. So my thing is, this is coming out of the reserves we have today. If anything happens in the next year, not that we would deplete our $7 million in reserves, but we know we have the funds today. We know there is a need, and we're counting on purchasing this item anyway. And it's not coming off the tax. Yeah, it's a valid point, but we're just kicking it down for another year. So I don't know. That's just my feelings on it.
Councillor Shabbat?
Yeah, thank you, to you, Madam Chair, to the acting fire chief. Do you mean to say that we do not currently have a backup generator and we haven't had any for a while? Or do we have one that's not functioning? Do we have any backup at all at this particular time?
I believe we do not.
We do not, and we haven't had any for a while.
I haven't checked it.
Councillor
Madam Chair, in that case, I was not aware that we did not have a working generator. I would wish to withdraw this resolution if that's doable, and I would need my secondar's agreement as well. I assumed we had one and it was working maybe on 3 legs instead of 4, but it was working. Not having one is not.
No, it's,
We have one, just not a backup.
yeah, it's our current, through you, Madam Chair, our current one is working. You know, it's becoming to a point where we do have to replace it eventually, you know, but it is working. Does it have issues? Yes, it does. You know, but to Councilor, to Mayor's point, this would become a reserves.
Yeah.
We do have to get it. I mean, there's a decision council can make. You know, we could put it off. Would something happen this year? Yeah, we'll come back to you and we'll have to get the funds for that. But at the end of the day, we do have one, but it does need eventually to replace it. So if it's now or definitely next year.
Well, it depends if you pull the motion and my question, but if he doesn't.
I would like to withdraw the motion, but the costs are only gonna be higher next year, so let's do it this year.
Councillor Kylie?
Yeah. So it's withdrawn. We just identified that the motion has been withdrawn.
Motion's been withdrawn. Resolution, item number 11. Page 1, capital budget, moved by Councillor Shaba, seconded by Councillor Patrick Kiley. Sand spreader, $11,194 to be removed. Councillor Shaba.
Yeah, thank you very much, you, Madam Chair. Well, when I was looking at this, I think there are some things that we give. You know, we don't have the money for everything that we need. So we'll think that unless I'm convinced, otherwise we think that maybe this one be removed and deferred till, next year. That's it.
Councillor Highway,
As stated.
Councillor Owens.
Through you, Madam Chair, to the Director, what is the intended use for this one? Like, I mean, we've got a big one on the 10-wheeler. What can you access more with this one that you couldn't with the 10-wheeler and the 6-wheeler that already has it?
Through you, Madam Chair. There are several areas where Big Sanders does not fit. There's several laneways that are Big Sander does not fit. And all those areas right now, we are spreading sand by hand or with a loader bucket. So the end product is very inconsistent and it can present its own safety concerns. Having a small unit in a pickup truck, just like Complex has, would definitely help our department to reach every area.
Follow up.
Okay, so as a follow-up, so the complex, I've seen it being used. And we're under all this comfort link. Is there a way to have, like, I highly doubt that standard thing on the job, but that truck is being used all winter, every day, every minute. Is there a way to share services and offset? I mean, you guys plow the parking lot. I've seen that, so isn't there a way to get that truck and hey, let's go do those laneways with that truck?
Through you, Mayor. We did have that discussion amongst directors. And the issue is simple, is that when the Public Works Department will need it, the complex also needs it for the exact same time. When slippery conditions, for example, that sander has to come out with both division 3 or 4 times a day. And the applications can take 2 to 3 hours per application, depending on where we're going. So every single time we're gonna need the truck, the complex will be crying for the same truck. Every single time.
Councillor Owens.
Can we just transfer the truck to Public Works and you plow the parking lot? Can't you do it all in one shot?
Well, then we're gonna need another employee.
Oh, yeah. Done.
Councillor Owens.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. Why can't we set priorities just like we do with the roads? Certain roads get done first, they get done more often, they're higher priority. And we have another priority, and then we have another priority. Why can't we use one sander and set priorities on which areas need to be done first? Do those first, then move to the next most used, and then the next most on the priority list. And break down the silo instead of spending all this money on another unit. Just come up with priority lists, just like we do with the roads.
I know it's not a question, but I can respond.
Sure.
Suppose I could use the same example with our trackless units. Why don't we just run with 1 instead of 2? Maybe the same argument why we have 2 loaders, why not just run 1 and not 2, something with backhoes, is because to meet minimum requirements, we need these units. Like it council makes a decision not to purchase this unit, that's fine, but we're not gonna share. We're gonna continue on with the way we're doing it. Because it won't work.
Madam Mayor.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. I can understand that what you're saying to us is that these 2 separate areas are priority 1s or priority 2s or equal priorities at the
Yes.
same time, priorities. So, and that's why we do have 2 track lists. I can understand that this will ease staff time as well, because I imagine having to go in with a loader is more time consuming than doing this with a pickup truck.
Absolutely correct.
So overall, again, it's forward thinking that we are saving staff time. Saving staff time means overall savings, because then they can be using that extra time to do extra services, right?
Correct.
So-
Instead of, how can I say, disturb a loader operator doing his current task, yes. There'll be more production, increased safety, and better consistency with our applications.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Councillor Owens.
Oh, unless
Sorry,
you can go
Councillor
first.
Shaw.
He had his.
Councillor Shaw.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Madam Chair. Through you to Director. And no offense to people that rely on laneways to get out of their house and all of that, we take that very seriously. And I just like to echo what Councilor Owens said, we could prioritize, some people could wait a little while. So the main roads are done and then come back to Lane. My question to you is that, can we not use the same, plow slash sander that they use for our sidewalks? Because I see them going by my office once in a while and then they plow ahead and then they sand. Would that not be applicable? And that can not be used at all?
Sorry, to utilize.
It's a plow slash sander, you know, they do a sidewalk with.
Oh, the trackless unit.
Exactly, yes. Yeah.
From what I understand, it doesn't work well because it does disturb that route, that circulation. We're trying to attack these at the same time. If we park a trackless unit to go do those areas, then we don't catch up with our sidewalks. It's always a trade-off. So that's why we would have a loader go out and our trackless would remain on the sidewalks.
Councilor Owens?
Okay, so if we need this, can we move it off the levy and onto reserves? Like, it's not, I don't think it's up to us to sit on the taxpayers' money. We've got a lot of money in reserve. I can figure out many other areas to spend my money instead of having the town take it and just sit on it. I don't even do that with my own money, so, can we move it off the levy? That's something, for $11,000, it's not gonna be a big hit.
That would be a change in resolution, correct?
Yeah, well, it's a suggestion. It's a suggestion.
They can make the amendment, all right?
They have to find a seconder to do it.
Okay.
Yes. We want to ask her.
Yeah, I want to ask the question, well, does Councilor Shabba have to change it, or just somebody have to,
No, so how it works is you ask if there's a question on the floor asking if the item come off get off the levy and be put into reserves. Is there a seconder for that amendment?
It was a question, it's not necessarily an amendment. I just want to know, is that something that's,
yeah, so I'll put the question on the floor.
okay.
Instead of the sander spreader being removed from the capital budget, is there someone who would want to create a resolution?
Create an amendment.
Create an amendment to have the sander spreader at $11,194 be taken or to use the reserve fund to purchase
Rather than the tax.
rather than the tax levy. Councilor Owen,
Yeah. That resolution forward.
so do I create anything?
No, so we'll just do this.
All right. Bear with me.
Reading them this way. That's our seconder.
Can I ask for a seconder? Councilor Dyke?
Well, you go ahead. Point of clarification,
Councilor Shabba?
is it an amendment to an amendment? Is that an amendment to this main motion?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay, so you could vote on the amendment and then you main motion after.
Yeah.
That's correct.
I asked the same question.
I didn't hear you.
I know. Okay. So there's an amendment on the floor, moved by Councilor Owen, seconded by Councilor Dykens, to have the 2023 expenditure of $11,194 for the sander spreader taken from the reserve fund.
No, please. Yes, taken from the reserve fund rather than.
The capital budget,
Rather than.
rather than the tax levy.
Not even.
All
Actually, call for question.
call for questions.
That was my question.
So now there's a motion on the floor for it, so now you guys get to deliberate on the amendment.
Okay.
Let me read it again.
No.
No, I'm just confused as to why it's gone this.
Yeah.
Madam Chair,
Well, just,
so Lloyd, can you answer if there is any negative or positive impact to reserves with this issue?
Yeah.
As per case.
Be blunt, no, there's no, it's a small amount, there's no strategic. Negatives to this, it's not gonna change your asset management plan or anything else that we have, in the immediate future. So it's well within, the kind of thinking to use reserves for these kind of things, so. No issues from a financial point of view.
Councilor Shabbat, you still have a question or?
Oh, no, well, just back to the main motion, this motion,
Have to,
Should ask
have to
the-
deal with the
how to
amendment
deal with
first.
it, because I think it's redundant.
So we'll deal with the amendment first,
Okay.
because the question was put on the floor. If the question is for the treasurer, all council, through you, Madam Chair, please address the question to the treasurer,
Okay,
not to all of council, okay?
yeah,
Because if you're posing a question, then I'm thinking you are wanting to make an amendment. And so I'm gonna so direct the finance chair to go down
So that's where when I asked my question through the chair to the,
to the treasurer.
well, that's what I did. I wasn't, but this works as well.
Okay.
It was a bit more confusing.
I apologize.
I did, but it's contract to the lawyer.
Okay.
So I'm gonna read the
Read the amendment.
amendments.
Yeah. So everybody knows what the amendment is to have the 2023 expenditure come from the tax levy. Be removed from the tax levy and be taken from the reserve fund. So now you call for the vote.
All in favor? Those opposed? Motion carried.
Okay, so that's on the amendment,
Okay,
and I'll call for the.
I'm gonna call for a motion to have the sand spreader of $11,194 removed from the 2023.
Just remove it.
Oh, just removed. All in favor?
Sorry, point of clarification. We've already voted to move it to reserves, so we're voting to
On the original resolution,
Which
which
is to
have it just
move it from
removed.
the tax levy.
To remove it.
Oh,
Have
okay.
it-
Yeah,
Okay.
so all in favor of having it
Hold
removed?
on 1 second. I will give through you, Madam Chair, to clarify for all council. If council decides to vote in favor of the next motion, you are removing the item in its entirety from the budget. If council decides to defeat the next motion, the funds will be coming out of the reserve fund rather than the tax levy. Okay, go ahead, call for the vote.
All in favor? Those opposed?
Okay, so the main motion is defeated, but the amendment is passed, so the item stays. I will take care of that. Okay. Excellent. That was the first time. You'll be fine.
Resolution number 16, capital budget, page 1, moved by Councillor Kylie, seconded by Councillor Shaba. Remove airport card lock system, $66,144 as only minimal labor cost savings. Councillor Kylie.
Through you, Madam Chair. I don't think there is any savings to spend $66,000 for 4 or 5 times a year to have somebody come and open the airport up. Where this card system would, replace that person. With the deficit at the, airport as well. I mean, we have to take a long, deep, concern over that. That's another issue. But I'm not in favor of the current system.
Councillor Shaba.
yeah, I agree with, Councilor Kylie. We have not had it in the past. Again, the frequency of usage of that airport, to me, really will need it to have a kind of system. So again, looking at the overall capital budget, something will have to give. We want to try to save money, or something will have to give. This is one of those things that I think we can defer till another budget year. Thank you.
Sorry, I'd like to kind of fall on my sword at this point for a minute. There's, since this budget was prepared, the airport landing lights have had a problem. So I don't know, I just want you guys, it's a $13,000 expenditure. They're portion of them aren't working, which restricts the airport usage in the evenings. I should have brought that up right at the very start, that was a kind of something for you to take into account in your deliberations. Whether we include it in this budget or we revisit it in another council meeting is entirely up to you, but like I said, I apologize. I was supposed to mention it at the start of the capital deliberations, and as soon as we hit airport, it's like, oops. And so,
Any other questions? I'll read the motion. Resolution moved by Councillor Kylie, seconded by Councillor Shava. Item number 16, capital budget, page 1, remove airport card lock system of $66,144. All in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries.
Point of order.
Point of order?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure that that's the right term to use, but now that our treasurer has brought up the $13,000 in light repair that we have to do, is it possible to include that during this meeting? Is that procedurally allowed?
So, Madam Chair, I'll council, yes, if it's your desire to do so, I just need to confer with the treasurer to identify where we be in terms of the budget.
yeah, so, Madam Chair. Again, it's like everything else in this list. It's entirely up to you how you want to finance it. You know, reserves or tax levy, or even debt, I suppose. So you have those options in front, the same options in front of you that you do for the rest of this list. Again, you know, this is a kind of thing that happens. It took us 2 months to kind of get this stuff in front of you. And, you know, you guys had a pretty fulsome discussion about the idea of something breaking and having to replace it on short notice. That's exactly what happened here. So I brought it up tonight because in theory, we could move it, make it part of this process rather than bring it back to council later.
Madam Mayor?
Madam Chair, I move that we add the amount 13
Sorry,
and change
How much is it?
it's 15.
15. Yeah. So for emergency repairs at the airport to come from reserves, because the item that we just removed was going to come from reserve, so it won't go on the tax levy. So I'll need a seconder.
Councillor Olin?
That's for discussion.
Discussion? Councillor Dyken?
To you, finance chair, to the treasurer, or maybe it's someone else for airport use. How many planes fly in and then how many planes fly in at night? And is it a regulatory thing that we have landing lights, or can it be a day only airport? Just curious.
Where you look at usage. It's my understanding that you won't have night lights landing without the lights. It becomes zero.
No, I realize.
Yeah.
Is there anybody from?
Oh, is there anybody from staff that can answer the question about the necessity of lighting? Seat's already warm.
Thank you.
I give both a shot.
Have an accident.
Sorry, a lot of that is historical data that through your chair, you moved to the rest of council. A lot of that is historical data that is actually would reside with the previous manager. It's not necessarily how many flights you have coming in and out, it's when you may need them. So fire season, right? You got a real call there. Air ambulances, that would be the ones that would be coming in at night. It's not for people, you know, just the occasional joy flyer or anything like that. It's one of those large safety. As to the actual number, again, that could vary. When we had fires in 2012, if any of you remember how busy the airport was at that point, we would not have been operating.
Anyone else? Questions? Councillor
Well,
Kyle.
under normal conditions, well, I think, the airport, ambulance service with the plane, it seems to me was 4 or 5 times for the year. So it's not a big issue, whether they go to Earlton or here. For $66,000.
No,
No,
it's just the lights.
For 15.
I'm sorry, Counselor, did you say that there's only 4 or 5 ambulance flights a year? There's quite a few more.
No, are they actually airplanes or the helicopters?
Airplanes. There's the orange aircraft. The helicopters are usually from the air, from the.
Yeah, I thought it was mentioned 4 or 5. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think, sir, that you're thinking perhaps within a week period or a few days period, but I think that we're around 30 or more. I honestly could not say, should not say that.
Councillor Owen.
Yeah, through you, Councillor, through you, Madam Chair. Just to clarify that, the number that Councillor Kylie is referring to is I talked to Mark Stewart at ESAB, the number of times that we use paramedic flights out of Earlton in a year is about 5 to 6 times a year for various reasons. Okay, so that's where the number 5 to 6 comes from, and that's and I apologize for the confusion, but that's the number that we're back on it from. Sorry.
Thanks for that clarification.
Any other questions? Thank you, gentlemen. New item, capital budget, airport lights for the runway, emergency repairs. Moved by Mayor Wright, seconded by Councillor Owens, $15,000 from reserve. All in favor? Those opposed? None. Motion carried.
For point of yes.
Resolution number 22, capital budget, page 1, moved by Councillor Chavez, seconded by Councillor Kylie. Ice resurfacer.
Point of order. Are you both or vote on the 66,000? You didn't,
Yes, the removal of the airport car lot system.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a vote that was taken, it was carried.
must think of this one. Yes,
I'll start again.
yes.
Resolution number 22, capital budget, page 1, moved by Councillor Chavez, seconded by Councillor Kylie. Ice resurfacer, do not replace. Item number 22, capital budget. Page 1, yeah, I said it. And then remove 155,700 and 35,000 towards refurbishing existing unit or replacement in future year. We have, should I mention that? So we have a second set of, or another resolution extremely similar for the same motion or similar, same, should I read them?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's moved by Councillor Owen, seconded by Councillor Kylie. Capital budget, page 1 of 2, ice resurfacer, remove this line and replace with, put 35,000 in reserves for the refurbishing of the Olympia for future purchase of another ice resurfacer at a later date. Is there one of the resolutions that would like to remove there?
I'll withdraw mine and in favor of
Yeah, you can go ahead with this.
Well, it's against Councillor Owens' resolution.
Yeah.
Okay,
clearly with the.
Okay.
and the treasurer, that was with yes.
So I just want to be clear on this one. When you're saying to move
Yeah,
add 35,000 towards the refurbishment or replacement in future years, that will increase the tax levy.
No, that's coming out of reserve.
Well, it's already it's a reserve. The original purchase was a reserve. You don't need to move it out of reserve to save for the future, I guess that's why I'm having this conversation. So if you want to put $35,000 aside, we could move it from a different reserve into a reserve designated for this. Or you could use a tax, like we do with many other items, you can use a tax levy to start saving for it. Through the same mechanism we use for other capital assets. But it's just the wording of this. I just wanted to be very clear that it wasn't, where do you want the 35 to come from? Tax levy or another reserve?
Counselor Owen.
yes, through you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the treasurer. My idea, and it was to take 155.7 and drop it down to 35,000 specific for refurbishing or purchase of another resurfacing. So I don't know on the accounting side how you do that.
So,
From the reserve fund.
yeah, and the amount I'm not sure about, I don't know from my understanding of what we heard last time from the director. I don't know that refurbishment has a number associated with it right now. I guess is what I'm saying. I think I understand what you're saying, but it's not, you can certainly put anything you want into the budget, any amount you want. But the way it's worded now, I'm less concerned with how much the amount is, but what your intentions are. If you're dropping it and saying we're going to use reserves to spend a specific amount, I guess my question to council would be, I don't think we identified a $30,000 refurbishment as an option for the ice reserves. I think I understand you saying we should be prepared for that or use that instead of buying a new one. That's where I'm a little bit confused about, right?
I'd like to call up Director of Parks and Recreation, Bonnie Sackrider, to be able to communicate. Oh, sorry. Seeing another option.
If I can comment on some new information I received about ice resurfacers this morning. So I was in conversation with an Ontario manufacturer today, and the lead time has now increased to purchase an ice resurfacer to 1 year. So with that new information, I respectfully request that you would consider tonight allocating $2024 for the purchase of an ice resurfacer, because even if it was approved tonight, we would not be able to purchase one in the 2023 fiscal. I had a bit more conversation with him as well, in terms of life expectancy, longevity, refurbishment, if it goes down, things like that. He did say if we were planning to keep it much longer, these were the items he would think that we would have to repair. We'd have to do a replacement on the conditioner and the augers, a cylinder head replacement, emissions testing with upgrades, hydraulic hose replacement. So he's estimating if we went further than probably another 6 to 12 months, although he hasn't seen it to know exactly, we're probably going to be spending between 15 to 20,000 at that point, and that would give us another year or two. So the purchase is still my recommendation, although because of supply, we would not be able to do it in 2023. He did calculate hours, he did calculate kilometers based on the hours that we have. And he said, at this point next year, you're going to be going into your 12th year. He said, certainly past typical life expectancy, you'd be about 200,000 kilometers. So those are just new information that I didn't have last week when I spoke to you.
Councilor Dykens.
To you, Finance Chair, to you, Director Sackrider. Did he mention anything about the cost of it going up next year if we wait? He did not. I did not specifically ask that question. Thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Yeah, I'll put an amendment to, right? To move this from 2023 budget deliberations to 2024 allocation.
Does
Councilor Owen.
that mean we have to approve But because if your wait time is a year, then it's somewhere we have to say yes to it this year that we're gonna pay for, it. Is that what that motion is gonna be doing?
So the way you want it worded is the council allocate this amount of money for 2024 expenditures.
From the reserve.
Yes, that's where I was going
Okay.
next. This reserve fund. And you will need your second.
I'll need a second.
I'll second it.
Wouldn't it just be easier if I withdrew my motion and then put that as a new motion?
Through you, Madam Chair, to all council, either way, we're already halfway there, so.
Okay, whatever.
I already read through it. Well, we don't have a seconder yet.
I'll second.
Okay.
We're getting our practice in tonight.
Councillor Owen?
Can I ask some questions
Yes.
about the proposed purchase?
Yeah,
Is that?
yeah,
Okay.
you're good for, if it's 2024. Perfect purchase.
Yeah, okay. Is this an electrical body? Sorry, Director Secretary.
Through you, Council, through Chair to Councillor Owen, my recommendation would be for the electric.
Okay, I did some research too. And I came up with some questions that you may want to ask. There are some questions about battery life, okay? And to replace the battery packs is $20,000 to $40,000. I'm not quite sure what the issue is with the current batteries, but apparently there have been some issues. So the other item that I found was that apparently there's issues with the current batteries being able to be recycled.
Okay.
I've never heard of that before because any batteries that I know of are recyclable. So just out of curiosity, we may want to inquire as to the battery life or the expected. I mean, they can't tell you things go wrong, but $20,000 to $40,000 is a big chunk of money. But yeah, I only found one community that had a problem with them. All the other communities I read about on the electric ice resurfacers were very happy with them. So I just assumed that one company, that one community happened to get one.
Thank you, Councillor Owen.
Any other questions? Okay, I'm gonna read the amendment. Moved by Mayor Hoy, seconded by Councillor Owens, that that council reallocate capital budget project item number 22, ice resurfacer, the Olympia of $155,700 for the 2024 expenditure from the reserve fund. All in favor?
Oh, may I? May I speak?
Yes.
Is it possible to take out the word Olympia because that is a brand and I don't necessarily know what
Yeah.
Yeah.
that.
So noted.
So noted.
So,
All in favor?
Did you vote?
yes, I voted.
The second time.
I'll vote with both hands.
You want to call for the decision? Just. And you vote opposed?
Yeah.
I didn't see every.
Those opposed? Okay, motion carried.
I can't believe I voted for that one. Pretty bad.
Yeah.
So, the original resolution moved by Councillor Owens, seconded by Councillor Kiley. Remove ice resurfacer, and replace with putting 35,000 in reserve for the refurbishing of the Olympia for future purchase for another ice resurfacer at a later date. Those in favor? Those opposed? Motion defeated. Let's do the other one. Resolution, item number 23, page 1, capital budget, moved by Councillor Kiley, seconded by Councillor Shaba. Animal control repair, take from reserve, $13,588. Councillor Kiley.
I believe we had that, in the operating budget, was that, right?
Yeah, listen, excellent.
Yeah, I would like it to be removed and put into, from the reserve budget.
Any questions? Okay. Move to a vote?
Yeah.
Moved by Counselor Kylie, seconded by Counselor Shabba, to have the animal control repairs of $13,588,000 taken from the reserve and removed from the capital budget. Those in favor?
From the tax levy.
Sorry, removed from the tax levy
Yes.
and purchased from,
And
Take-
transferred to.
and transferred
Sure.
from the reserve. All those in favor, please. Those opposed? Motion carried.
Transfer to. I'll do it. Like that.
So we're going into the operating budget. Resolution from the operations budget, page 6 of 15. Admin services operating budget moved by Counselor Shabba, seconded by Counselor Kylie. Fire alarm system, $22,185 for the OPP detachment to be taken out of operating budget and purchased through the reserve. Counselor Shabba.
Well, again, we're just trying to, reduce the operating cost. So we just felt that, if it's doable, we will move that amount out of that and then take it from, the reserve.
Again, same answers before, we have plenty of reserves for those kind of moves, you know.
Counselor Dykens?
Madam Chair, where exactly is this again? It's in the operating budget, page 1.
Page 6
Page
of
6.
15,
And
under admin.
But it's also the town. It's in the capital.
It's in the capital. I mean, it's over, it's in the capital.
It's in the capital?
Yeah.
Page 2.
Seven from last.
Okay, so item 15.
Page 2.
Item 15. 22. Item 15. Yep, that's right.
Corporate service.
Yep,
It's under operating.
no, it's under. That's
I
fine.
will take this. Thank you. You need to look at it, Holly?
no, it's fine. I just couldn't find it on
Yeah.
that.
Any other questions? Okay, move to vote. Moved by Counselor Shabba, seconded by Counselor Kylie. The fire alarm system at the OPP detachment, the cost of $22,185 to be item number 2, page 2, item number 15, removed from the capital budget and to be purchased through the reserve. Those in favor?
Remove from the tax levy and put the reserves.
Yes, yeah.
Those opposed? Motion carried.
Good.
Resolution operating budget, page 13 of 15, public works, expenditures, labor and related. Moved by Counselor Owen, seconded by Counselor Kylie. Remove full-time equivalent position from public works and include reclassification of current position. Counselor Owen,
Thank you.
Point of order.
Point of order for.
right, point of order.
I don't know if I missed this. I think, in the capital, we still have one more left. If you move away from the capital, are you going back to it?
That one's under waterworks, and I said I would do that last.
Okay, the fencing, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah,
Counselor
through
Owen,
you, the chair. I had a discussion with the CEO, Alan Smith, about creating a new position. And he discussed it with the director of the department, and they came up with a way of doing the work without creating this new position. So I will let CAO Smith elaborate on how the change takes place.
Through you, Madam Chair, Council, upon discussions with the director of the work center, we looked at the objectives of what was trying to be accomplished, and we actually we can accomplish the objectives through a reclassification of the position, which does not require the creation of a new position. So the work's out fine. It was just came out from a different angle, and this requires reclassification.
Councillor Day?
Even before, do you, Madam Finance Chair, I guess you say, Smith, what's the savings? Is there a cost saving?
There will be a cost savings for you, Madam Chair, too. So there will be a cost savings. What that dollar amount, I just can't top of my head right now, but there is a savings versus the route we're going. Yes, it will enhance a position, but at the same time, the overall cost will be lower.
Councillor.
Is there any decrease in quality of service
For you, Madam
in your
Chair,
opinion?
no, it will not be.
Any other questions? Okay. Voting for a resolution moved by Councillor Owen, seconded by Councillor Riley. In the operating budget, page 13, public works expenditures, labor and related, removal of full-time equivalent from the public works and include recent classification of current position. Those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carried. Last one, resolution moved by Councillor Chavez, seconded by Councillor Kylie. In regards to it's number 4, page 2, capital budget, water, wastewater, fencing, water treatment plant, capital budget reserve, $130,013 to be removed from budget. Councillor Chavez.
Yeah, we look at this. Councilor Kelly and I look at this, go through you, Madam Chair, to the director. I know when we talked about this last time, you indicated that this plant is class 3. So I really don't have any recollection, any statutory regulation that compels us to fence it. If it is, if there is one, maybe it's new, I don't know. But I know that we have not fenced that over the years. And I don't believe, I could be wrong, that we have frequent break-ins at the plant. So we're saying basically to move this one to remove from the budget, and I think it's a move to the reserve, right?
It says removed from budget.
Yeah, to the reserve.
Oh, to the reserve?
There's a
It's in the reserve?
Yeah.
Sorry, move it from the reserve, yeah, sorry. And then we are reasoning there, we're doing without one for 30+ years, unless there's a legislative requirement, which I'm not aware of. So maybe you can try to increase patrol in that area and potentially defer this till next year. Thank you.
I just want to
I would just like to respond. I did come through some different information, which puts into question as to whether or not offense is legislated. If it's an actual legal requirement, I apologize in advance to council that I had made an assumption last time on this, took somebody else's word. I would personally recommend to defer to another year for giving us more time to gather more information, and I want to feel more comfortable with my recommendation. I'm not convinced that it's a legal requirement, more of a strong recommendation. And I want to be able to research this a little further.
Councillor Kylie?
Yeah, I agree with you, Stefan. As Councillor Owen in our discussions on budget, was saying it is a large amount of money. It takes in a lot of green space outside of the building, which I don't think is really necessary to secure the building. So a little more homework, I agree is in order. Thank you.
Madam Mayor?
For you, Madam Chair. So because this was brought last council in open council, and there was stated that there has already been a breach of this facility. So council has been made aware that there has been previous attacks on our water systems. As this is literally the only item council can be held both criminally and civically responsible for personally. Where does this leave us as far as liability goes? Because it has been stated in open council that this system is at risk now. So if we don't move forward, how does that fare for our liability?
We are open to liability. I understand what you're saying, but the first line of defense, from what I can see right now from the regulations, is locked doors, locked gate, protection on windows. And where I was seeing as additional, other requirements that can be implemented, and that's where I was seeing the fencing, that's where I was seeing video cameras. We have other options that we can look at before we start looking at a fence, I believe.
I was told through Madam Chair, at one point last summer, an encampment was built on the back end of this building, was it not?
Yes, it was.
So someone had built a temporary structure against our water plant.
It wasn't against the water plant, it was on the property closer to the water's edge, hidden in the bushes. But the problem that we encountered is that whoever these people were damaging the facilities by removing fixed lights and connecting power cables to our building.
Taken a chance of compromising the water plant, right? In a sense, I mean, in a sense, so we're, okay.
Okay, I also want to note, here's the thing, if council decides to remove this item, and it is required legally, we can't vote on this procedure for another 12 months. However, in an emergency situation, procedure can be lifted for council to make that determination.
So just to further my comment, I just, as mayor, not as chair, I strongly suggest council revisit in their mind the training that we all receive, some of us multiple times, when they consider their deliberations. I really enjoy this job, but not enough to go to jail.
Yeah.
Councillor Shava? Councillor Kylie?
Yeah, with the people that occupied the area for camping as a campground, I think once we became aware of it, the bylaw enforcement officer went out and had them removed. So I would suggest that the bylaw enforcement officer be a little more not vigilant, but go there more often, just while we're waiting for an annual report or whatever, for further information.
Counselor Owens,
Should one we go to the vote, can I ask for a recorded vote on this one?
Counselor Owen,
Yes, I appreciate, sorry, to you, Madam Chair, to council. And to the director, I greatly appreciate what our mayor is saying in terms of liability. I may not have much, but I have no means of replacing it should something happen and I get sued. Some assets would be gone. But at the same time, that plant has been there for more than 25 years, I believe. I'm concerned about the cost of fencing. I'm also concerned about the security, so I think there has to be some sort of compromise where council can feel at ease that the water is protected and that we don't have to spend that much money. I don't know what the answer is. That's hopefully the water department will continue to investigate various ways that would be acceptable protecting our water source.
Lloyd, I have a question. If council voted to approve the money, waiting for other options to be considered at another council meeting, we're not required to spend the entire amount, even though if it was pulled from reserve, the intention is just there.
Yeah. Through you, Chair. Any item in the budget can be amended through council later. It's, you're not locked into, I can't speak to the aqua thing about 12 months. But
Procedural.
sorry. Yeah, I'm the accountant, not the clerk. You said, you know, if you put I guess the question here seems to be, you know, we're a little uncomfortable with how much the amount is and how much it's required. You could certainly pass any amount to be amended when you find out, you know, what other options you have to get to the same comfort level that you're looking for. You know, whether it's a full fence in this scenario or something else, a partial fence. Yeah, just keep in mind, there was a second component to this, which was the tower. There was fencing for the tower as well. So, I can't speak to whether 130 is the right number or not, but you know, you can change that later if you find out that there's a better option for, you know, from an accounting point of view, you can change that later if you find you have a better option that costs less to provide you with the, you know, the comfort and the security that you guys are looking for.
Councilor Shabba?
Yeah, thank you very much, to you, Madam Chair, to the director. You said a while ago that you like to revisit this whole fencing. We'll give you time. Like to revisit it, right?
Yes.
For the record, all right. The question that I'm going to ask you, I think you already stated it, is very simple one. And you go through the safeguards that we have now for the water treatment plant. What are the safeguards that are there now? So that it will not be breached. I mean, we've had that for what, 30+ years with no fencing. So what do we have in terms of preventing the anybody reaching into especially the clear well anyways, right?
Understood. Through you, Madam.
Yeah.
Chair. The fault that we identified with the plant was the age of the doors or the locks. It turned out there was at least one door that would not lock and it would not latch properly. And I believe that is where the person came through and started putting pressure on Aqua to buy their doors and their locks. And that's definitely a first step, is making sure all our doors are properly locked. And That's why I want to take a little bit more time to look at the other options that we have. I know that the video camera would be a lot less invasive and it would give us eyes on the ground all the time. It's something that I would like to entertain as far as an option.
Thank you.
Councillor Owen?
To you, Madam Chair, to the clerk. Would it be possible to pass the amount that's currently in the budget, subject to a follow-up security report from the director?
To Madam Chair, to all of council, in the wording is in principle. However, the resolution should be amended to include a supplemental report being provided to council prior to the expenditure.
Okay. I would like to propose an amendment that the clerk could write in proper bureaucratic language.
Other comments, questions?
Hold on. You have to deal with the amendment.
Do I have?
Hold on, I have to write it.
Yeah.
I just need a minute.
Secondary, right?
Yeah, but I need a minute because I'll have to read the resolution. So what I understood was it would be moved by Councilor Rick Owen that an amendment be made to allow the item to remain in the capital budget in principle with the report to council for the approval of the final expenditure.
Just for clarity.
What's the supplementary?
The safety. We're requiring this, the safety report.
That's the report to council.
Yeah.
You want me to call it a supplemental report?
Or just a report to council, right?
Okay. Because the report will be all encompassing. It'll go to before council for final approval on the expenditure.
Yeah, that's fine. We just want something that's gonna make us feel comfortable and meet the legal and needs.
You have a seconder?
Also second.
Okay, open the report for discussion.
Councillor Lincoln, open the floor. Question?
Yeah, through finance chair. Are we, just for point of clarity, are we voting on the fencing or are we voting on the security of the water plant, or do we, like, because right now it's fencing, right?
So right now you're voting that the amendment for the initial motion is to be made to allow for the item to remain on the capital budget in principle with a report to council for the approval of the final expenditure to come at a later date.
Okay, follow up for clarity. Would this include like other options for security?
Yes.
Okay,
If you want, through you, Madam Chair, to all council, if you want to be specific on what you're looking for in the report, now's the time.
I think maybe it's just me, but I feel more comfortable if we kind of encompass that as increased security or look at like a audit of the security of the plant and rather than just fencing, because there could be other things like you mentioned, the director mentioned like video cameras and making sure locks. So just, I don't want us to miss out on an option if we don't keep it to fencing.
That's what the report will be about. It'll be about presenting different options.
Okay.
As the seconder, because it's a report to council and it's non-specific, that allows for staff to include any possibilities. Rather than being very, very specific, I believe it leaves it open.
Thank you.
Any other questions, statements about the amendment? Okay, I'm gonna read it.
I'll read it.
Oh, yeah.
Moved by Counselor Rick Owens, seconded by Counselor Mayor White, that amendment be made to allow for the item to remain in the capital budget in principle with the report to council for the approval of the final expenditure to come at a later date. Whether the recorded vote on this amendment.
Is it still gonna be recorded?
No, it was on the original motion, this one.
Okay,
Those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries.
okay, now the original.
Do you want to record it on the original?
You want to record it vote?
No, I guess it's, sure, yeah,
Okay.
I asked for one.
So, moved by Counselor Lad Chaba, seconded by Counselor Patrick Kiley, that the item number 4, page 2 of the capital budget for wastewater and wastewater fencing water treatment plant, 2023 expenditure $130,000.13 be removed from the budget. A recorded vote has been requested upon the request of Counselor Counselor Janice Ranger. Counselor Janice Ranger,
Not in favor.
Counselor Lad Chaba, Counselor Casey Owens, Counselor Dolly Dykens,
No,
Counselor Rick Owens,
No.
Counselor Patrick Island,
No.
Mayor White.
Nay.
The main motion is defeated. Yeah,
Okay. Resolution moved by Counselor Dolly Dyken, seconded by Counselor Vlad Chava, that the proposed 2023 municipal tax levy increase be reduced by 1.5% without use of any further reserves than already proposed. Counselor Dykens.
thank you through you, Finance Chair, to the whole council. I'd like to speak to all three resolutions. The first one is 1.5 decrease. The second is 1.35. And the
That's
other
the
one,
only one you can speak to.
I know, and I'm just gonna do a general one. Okay, that's fine. So thank you for the opportunity to speak to this resolution. With the changes passed this evening already, given that gas prices have reached record levels in 2022 and are expected to rise again in 2023, given that food prices rose 5 to 7% in 2022 and are projected to increase by 7% in 2023, that means an almost $1,100 annual increase for a family of 4. Given that we experienced record high inflation in 2022, and although it decreased slightly in 2023, it is significantly higher than normal. Given that both Hydro One and Enbridge Gas have recently announced increases. Given that according to Statistic Canada 2021 census, approximately a quarter of the population of Kirkland Lake are 65 years or older and most likely on a fixed income. If you add the 60 to 64-year-olds, that jumps to 31%. Given our combined water and wastewater rates will be increasing by 4.5%. Given that according to the Town of Kirkland Lake website, we maintain over 125 lane kilometers of roads, storm sewers, sidewalks, and 2 bridges. And the surfaces and infrastructure of our roads is deteriorating, including the collapse of the storm drain earlier this today. Given that the current proposed Town of Kirkland Lake budget is projected to utilize over $2.6 million in reserves, that's combined operating capital, not including what we voted tonight, going either way, and includes over $1.96 million in unfunded capital. So on one hand, we want to ensure that the CAO and his staff have the means to operate and manage the business of our town well. On the other hand, we don't want to unnecessarily add to the economic uncertainty that Kirkland Lakers are already facing. We trust and hope that there is room in the proposed budget to realize, I'm going to say 1.5% decrease in the proposed municipal tax levy without utilizing any further money held in reserves other than what has already been proposed. That would bring the municipal tax levy to 2.85% increase rather than 4.35. We trust that it would still allow our CAO and staff the means to efficiently and effectively operate and manage the business of the town this year, as we keep in mind the imminent and future infrastructure needs. We look to the whole council to support this resolution. Thank you.
Director of Finance.
Through you, Madam Chair, I just like to clarify, you have to play accountant again. The motion speaks to the municipal tax levy, but the rates, I think, are properly associated with the tax rates we've been talking about.
Okay.
It's just the tax levy actually decreased from last year to this year, like the actual tax levy. So the tax rates are what we were talking about in the increase. So I'm just pointing out that the wording here, it's a bit of a mix. We should be talking about the municipal tax rate. If we're talking about the municipal tax rate, it should be the residential rate, because that's the one that has a 4.35 rate that we've been discussing so far. So just before you all have your opportunity to talk about this, I just want to be clear, it's not the tax levy that was increased by 4.35, it's the tax rate on the residential tax rates.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Kylie.
Yeah, in all due respect, to your worship, to Councillor Dykens, in all due respect, the process that we just went through is kind of thrown out the window, because we're asking staff now to come back with a decrease. May not, I don't think it's going to come in that low with the changes that we've recommended. I think the cuts that we have recommended today are sufficient to reduce the tax levy as noted, and I don't want to see the staff have to go back and reinvent the wheel. That's my approach.
Councilor Shabbat.
Through you, Madam Chair, to everyone. Last meeting, we were given all this to fill out. Personally, I would have preferred us to start from a motion such as that of Councilor. That way, we can go through the process that we just went through now. So even though part of me said, well, we have to reduce the rate. You're quite right. People are struggling. But again, I just thought that going through this process, I know the CEO didn't mind. Personally, I thought maybe very encroaching onto their duties or whatnot. But that's the way it is. That's the way we did it tonight. So I'm with you in trying to reduce that, but also then that means that everything we've done today up to now is just well, we wasted our time. If they have to go back there and try to rejig the numbers and come with 1%. So what I would suggest, if this is doable, is why don't we have another meeting coming up where we would defer this motion to see what this reduction would come to based on everything that we've gone through. I don't know what that will come to. And if you still feel like bringing your motion up next time, if you can, you could do that. I don't know if that's the rule. I'll leave it at that.
Yes. Councilor Owens.
I think for a long time, there's been a lack of investment in the town of Kirkland Lake. We started changing that tide last council, and this is what this budget presents us. It's not a I don't even know the word. It's not like an exaggerated budget. It's not like we all want this new equipment. We're going out to buy the best fire truck, and we're going to try to go for used. I think there were some sacrifices made. I don't want to have to pay more taxes. you know, my gas bill went up too, my food bill's going up, everything's going up, I feel it. Unfortunately, because there's been a lack of investment in town of Kirk Lake, which we saw today with that crumbling of whichever pipe, we can't cut the budget anymore. Like, I agree with Councilor, like, they've done their work, we've done what we had to do. We can't take money out and not invest in our future, otherwise what's the point? Like there won't be infrastructure left for the next generation if we nickel and dime on it. And I don't want to use that term because for some people, those nickel and dimes are a lot. But we also need to ensure that the streets we ride on are safe. And the way to do that is by this type of budget where it meets our needs. So I can't support that motion.
Councillor Owen,
Through you, Madam Chair, to council. I am glad that Councillor Dykens brought that forward, because this is the first time at this council table, either as a councillor or as a reporter before that, where I heard it clearly stated concern for people who will have difficulty, and real concern for people who will have difficulty in paying the increase. But having said that, I don't see realistically how we can cut anymore. I really don't. And I'm one of those people who cannot, who is on a fixed income, except for my council, which I guess I get a raise every year, apparently. My fixed income is nowhere keeping up with inflation, with the cost of heating my house, electrical for my house, nothing. But I honestly believe that staff has done their best to make absolutely as many cuts as they can. And I'm sure some staff are going to go home when this budget's passed, disappointed because certain things got cut. And and it's a good thing because they're dedicated to the town. That's why they'll be disappointed. But I honestly, I mean, basically, we've gone through this line for line, looking for savings every place we can. And before it got to us, directors went through this line for line. Senior management team went through this line for line. The Treasury Department went through it line for line, keeping the current realities of the world in mind, that people can't afford to pay more. But we can't afford. We have spent so much money, and I'm quite aware of this because my son was the waterworks foreman. We have spent so much money on overtime fixing water main breaks because the pipes were never fixed by previous councils. And now we're playing catch up, but we're trying to do it in a measured way so that we're not going to hit people with huge increases. So while I support Dolly's idea, I don't think at this time it's practical.
Councillor Kylie.
Yeah, in all due, through you, your worship, in all due respect, Dolly, I have to agree with Councillor Owen. This is the first budget that I've been involved in 8-9 years, that each individual council has been as involved in the budget process as much as we have. And to the credit of staff, we've asked a lot of questions, tough questions, and they've come back and we've made some cuts where we could. I think we're at our limit as to what we can cut further. And unfortunately, I like the idea of what you're saying, but I can't support what you're wanting.
Any other questions, statements? I'll read the resolution. Moved by Councillor Dykens, seconded by Councillor Latasada, that the proposed 2023 municipal tax residential rate increase be reduced by 1.5% without use of any further reserves than already proposed. Those in favor? Those opposed? You got it again. I'm not seeing all hands. Resolution,
You don't need to read it again, you can just ask for the vote.
can I have the vote again? Those in favor, raise your hands. Those opposed?
You, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
You can raise your hand.
Oh, I'm sorry, that was another start.
That's okay. Okay. For or opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, so then it's carried.
I didn't see.
So it's, sorry, it's defeated.
Okay.
No, people can abstain from voting.
Oh, okay, and I was gonna say,
Yeah.
So, point of order, I thought you said people can actually. Oh, I don't know.
It started as
Oh.
yeah. So
It's
you may want to ask Councillor, Dyson, since she wants to move forward with the next two motions.
do you wish to move forward with your next two motions?
The third one for 1%, sorry, through you, Madam Chair, to council, just not aware of when the resolution would fall, tonight, so I understand that we've already done a lot of work, for that, but I still would like to propose, that including all of the amendments we've made tonight, that there be a 1% decrease.
I'll read that, I'll read it. Resolution moved by Councillor Daly-Dyken, seconded by Councillor Lad Shaba, that the proposed budget of 2023 municipal residential tax rate.
Right? No, yeah. You have to move it.
Yeah. Increase reduced by 1% without use of any further reserves than already proposed. Councillor Dyken,
I said,
any questions, comments? All right, resolution moved by Councillor Dyken, seconded by Councillor Lad Shaba, that the proposed 2023 municipal tax residential rate increase be reduced by 1% without use of any further reserves than already proposed. Those in favor? Those opposed? Motion defeated.
If I may comment
Councillor Kyle?
to the chair, I think we're close to that 1%. When we,
Yeah, sorry,
we weren't calculating,
yeah,
Yeah,
sorry,
but-
through you, Madam Chair. I'm not sure we are. 1%, and I'm kind of winging it here, you'll forgive me, but it's at least $120,000.
yeah,
It could be as high as 140, depending. We have some oddities going on with our industrial assessment this year,
okay.
which kind of changes the normal relationship. So, yeah, off the top of my head, I don't think we got to 1% through the process. We much smaller than
Close,
that,
but it's not there.
No.
Okay.
I'd like to go forward. Does council need a second day of deliberations for the 2023 municipal budget? Those in favor?
No.
Is there
It was-
interest?
It was an option.
Yeah.
Okay, so the recommendation is as follows. Document on line third. Moved by Councillor Rick Owens, seconded by Councillor Patrick Kiley. Be it resolved that the council receive the responses from the treasurer questions surrounding the 2023 budget for information purposes. And that the treasurer make the requested amendments to the 2023 budget as so directed by the council. And finally, that the 2023 budget as amended be presented for final approval at the regular meeting of council dated April 18, 2020.
All in favor? Motion carried.
Thank you, Councillor Ranger. You did a fine job as finance chair for your first of 4. Item number 7, considerations of notice of motions. There are none this evening. Item number 8, introduction, reading, and consideration of bylaws. There also are none. Item number 9, question from council, none noted. Item number 10, notice of motions, none noted. Item number 11, councilors report. There are none as it is a special meeting. Item number 12, additional information. There is none. Item number 13, closed section. There is none this evening. Item number 14, matters from closed session. There also are none. Item number 15, confirmation bylaw. Madam Clerk.
Moved by Counselor Dolly Dyken, seconded by Counselor Janice Ranger, be it resolved. The following bylaw be read first, second, and third time numbered, passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, and the seal of the corporation be affixed thereto. File number 2326 being a bylaw to confirm proceedings of council at its meeting held Tuesday, April 11th, 2023.
All in favor? Opposed? There are none. Item carried unanimous. Item number 16, adjournment.
Moved by Counselor Chavez, seconded by Counselor Dolly Dyken. Be resolved that this special meeting council will now adjourn at 6:40 p.m.
All in favor? All opposed? None noted. Item carried unanimous. Good evening, everyone. Good day.